So the more you pay on time, the more your reputation goes up. The more you do good, the more you get better value. And that is how economies do work. So we made an announcement about 6 months ago how we used blockchain technology in particular for supply chain finance. For 50 years, supply chain finance has been one of the best assets for banks to lend to. So imagine there is a core company, a large multinational, that has some relationship with suppliers in level 1. Supply chain finance in manufacturing, in agriculture, in shipping does not stop at level 1, but it goes very deep. It goes to 5, 6, 7 different levels. So you have banks focusing on level 1 and giving them all the trust and the reputation they deserve because they can prove that they have a relationship with the core company. But it leaves everybody below completely with absolutely no reputation. In fact, the solution that the bank came up with, which is the account payable, is the main reason why the people below, or the SMEs below, don't get absolutely any reputation whatsoever. They cut the flow of information by taking that whole transaction outside of the system. So we used blockchain technology, and we tracked the project requests and purchase orders and the delivery of each project between every different levels. So if you are a big electronics company, or if you are a big manufacturer, you are really now able to view every single transaction that happens in your supply chain finance. And more important, the credit worthiness of somebody in level 3 or level 4 becomes exactly the same as the credit worthiness of someone that is level 1. We were able to take a market that was only 15% addressable by banks and add the other 85% to it, just by using what we call the technology of trust. Finance is nothing more but information management. We don't create boxes, we don't ship boxes. All we do is we manage information. And the number one responsibility of managing information is when it happens and we store it, it should never change, should never be altered. That's why a lot of time you hear of concepts like system of record. Whenever we get lost, we go back to the system of record. With blockchain technology, you can do multiple things. The idea of being able to have an SME or a person show up anywhere with a digital proof of his reputation is probably the most powerful concept we've ever created in software engineering. I worked for Uber for 10 years. When I switched to Lyft, I take that information with me. It's my information. And when we have systems like this that blockchain technology promises, we can create Bitcoins, we can create ICOs, we can create dynamite if we want. We love blockchain technology. We do not like ICOs. We don't care about Bitcoins. We care about what creates value. When you empower people and SMEs with a tool that the concept of, oh, let me go check the credit bureau, and then I get information about you. How do you know it hasn't been hacked? How do you know it's not a mistake in there? But when information is in your hand, whether it's financial, whether it's medical, so you can move from doctor to doctor, it really empowers people, and it allows us to participate together in big projects in a distributed manner. That is why we believe blockchain technology is not only going to change the way we do finance, but it's probably going to change pretty much everything we do in life. So we love, as engineers, to solve infrastructure problems. And it is true, it is true that in Asia, the projects that we work on compared to what we do in the US or in Europe are all about infrastructure. And that is because of two reasons. Number one, there was no infrastructure before these things start to happen. It's an emerging market. And number two, we don't feel the need of changing our infrastructure in the US, for example, because banks have a certain level of service that customers are, to some extent, happy with. So we do believe that the innovation in finance will come from Asia, will come from countries like China, perhaps Hong Kong, perhaps Singapore, perhaps Indonesia. But the amount of new things that are developed in Asia is much, much more than what happens in countries like in the US. So before I leave you, there is this question that we get all the time. What is the future of finance? Again, I think finance is going to become a logistics problem. It's not going to be an arbitrage opportunity. I know we have regulators with us today. The good news is it's going to be super easy to regulate. You empower people, you empower SMEs that are responsible for their data. You will be able to participate in monitoring without, which is extremely important, without affecting the business of companies. Banks and financial institutions today are very unhappy with how much they have to spend on compliance and regulations. It's becoming unsustainable. But with these technologies, as a company, we can focus on doing our business, but because we adopted an infrastructure like blockchain, we can invite regulators to see what we do any given time. It's a system of record, it's a system of trust that we use it between us, but also can be exposed to everyone else. It's gonna become simple. Whether you like or you don't like derivatives, whether or not you like complex things, you can choose the level of complexity you want to have in finance. And we think it's gonna become a huge industry because financial inclusion is not gonna become an additional thought we do after we set up the bank and we get the shareholders and we build the infrastructure. It's gonna become part of the original problems we try to solve. Thank you.